Thanks for tuning in to this episode of I Have Something to Say, where subject matter experts are unafraid and unapologetic about sharing their perspectives regarding issues that impact our lives. They speak up because basically they give a shit. So if you're tired of canned answers and want to finally hear real people cut through the BS and talk about real issues, this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Sami Heyman Marrero from Urbender, and behind our mixer is our producer, Chris Majoka from UdoU. Welcome, everyone, to this first episode of I Have Something to Say for 2022. I hope you all rested. I know that I did, because there's still so much work to be done this year and beyond. And I have to say that as a business owner, you always are looking for opportunities to learn and to scale and to grow, because it's like that worry, right? Hovering over your shoulder about, oh my goodness, you can't stop the hustle. But many times we don't pause to seek guidance and help. And I have to say that I'm blessed to have met my guest for today, Joseph Simmons, this past year through mutual friends. And he's the founder of the Center for Micro-Entrepreneurial Training. And I'm going to be participating in his first cohort for 2022. And I can't wait. I'm like dying for next week to happen, so that way I can just dive right in and learn from this master of business and his entire team that are going to help us scale and grow our businesses. Welcome, Joseph. How are you?
I am doing great, Sammy. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm rested and I'm ready for the abuse so that you're gonna put us through next week. And because I know it's like an intense program, right? And so
It's eight
I'm
hours. Yeah, it's
fantastic.
immersive and intense. Yes.
It's really intense, and I'm excited. I'm so excited to have you, and thank you. Thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you. As we were talking, off camera, one of the things that you've done for me is introduce me to your ring of what is it, your ring of friends that have been very how can I say it? It's been a very productive. The introductions that you've made to me in regards to opening up doors in Atlanta, here in Orlando, it's just been very, very positive, and I want to thank you for that.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you. It's just that the minute that we met, it was like instant, like, oh my God,
Yeah.
you get me, I get you. We're on this path to really help entrepreneurs scale and grow and build generational wealth and financial freedom and leave a legacy for our kids and really have a seat at the table. And that you can only accomplish that with, we've learned, right? Through economic power. And so when you told me, I was like, oh my goodness, I want to learn. I want to, go through this process of training that you've put together. And so but let's take it a step back, because I want to share with everybody how you landed where you are today and why, to discover the why you are doing. You founded the Center for Micro Entrepreneurial Training.
Well, let me take you on a very. I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. Uh, I really have to give credit to my father. I was raised in a small town of 600 people in the coal fields of southeast West Virginia, and my father was a minister. And my mother was a domestic, and she did work up until probably grade school. But my father was always a builder. He built, you know, rooms onto the house, he built walls, he built driveways. But the most important focus for him was the church. And I grew up in a community where he was a pastor. So I had the pressure of being the preacher's son. But I got to see professional blacks, doctors, lawyers, business owners, dentists, and the conversations that they would have in the house. It just I don't know, it encouraged me that there was another world out there besides West Virginia. And so here we are, 60 some years later, and we all know what happened in 2020 with George Floyd. I saw an opportunity to really give back and to really follow in my father's footsteps in regards to providing a platform for entrepreneurs to really get a foundation to build their businesses. So we really started CMET in May of 2020. And let me just take a step back. I was also volunteering at SCORE, and SCORE gave me, 5 years, and I put together training programs, workshops, seminars, and that connected me with people around Central Florida that I could tap into. But I saw opportunities because small businesses weren't getting funding,
Hmm.
through EIDL, PPP. They didn't have the paperwork. And I said, you know what? My background is all about management and execution, and I've got this social capital. Why waste it? And so I started CMET. We had our first class in March of 2021. We've gone through 6 classes, 52 entrepreneurs, and January we start our second year, and I'm very happy to have Sammy attending.
Whoop, 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 whoop. I made
So
it.
that's kind of a long way of there, but hopefully that was the Reader's Digest version.
Yes, absolutely. And so your background is in management because you were part of the corporate sector, right? So you did work in the corporate sector and have a wealth of knowledge and information on how to navigate that. And it's business, right? So when you do work in the corporate sector, you learn the ins and outs of how business is done here in the US. And so all of those learnings are transferable and applicable to help entrepreneurs learn how to navigate the systems that we currently have while we're able to, create new.
Sam, yeah, that's absolutely right. I started my career in sales. I worked for, I guess, in '81. I started out with one Fortune 500 company. I moved to Johnson and Johnson. I've worked within big pharma, small pharma, startup pharma. So with all those different corporations, you're right. You not only build up social capital, but you also build up learning. For example, with Novartis, I was able to go through their leadership training program. I was able to go through execution program. I was able to go through funding, budgeting. All these things are like a master class. And so it's
Hmm.
just sitting at home and just, my feet up, watching coffee, having coffee
Yeah,
and watching TV. I can now utilize these tools, and these are valuable
absolutely.
tools for the entrepreneur.
Yes, totally. And the beauty of it is that then now you bring the lens of people of color. So that way
Yes,
you can deliver it in a way that we understand, right? What the challenges are, what the barriers are, how to overcome them. And also, your approach has that sensitivity, that doesn't dismiss the lived experiences that we have, some harsher than others, obviously, but I think it's wonderful and I'm so excited. I can't wait. I can't wait to start.
but you know what, Sammy, you're right, because to be successful in the corporate world, as you know,
Hmm.
you're in these two worlds, right? You're in the business world, and then you're in your community, and you have to merge the two, and there's this give and take sometimes. And when
Hmm.
you have the opportunity to give back, you give that back, right?
Hmm.
So you're right. You speak through a filter of, this is what it takes to be successful. This is what I've done to be successful. Here are all the resources for you to be successful. And now we're going to support you to be successful. So you're right. That's that's the focus.
Yes, totally. And so then I know that this is a 2-week program. Yeah, it's so funny because someone on your team called me
It's good.
last week and they're like, okay, are you ready to start? It's intense. You need to block out, basically 5 full days of training. I'm starting this coming week on January 24th. So everybody out there, please pray for me. Um, because I know it's going to be intense, but I know that I'm going to learn a lot. And so could you just guide me through what to expect? What are those foundational pillars that with all of this information you feel, you had to address in the coursework that I'm about to dive into, to be able to grow and to really have stability to be able to move forward and know that you're on solid ground, right, with your business and
Right.
not just winging it, if you will.
We got love. They're based, either your setup is good, Sammy. Really, CMET is around 5 pillars. Number one, planning, execution, day one. Day two is financial. So you gotta have to understand balance sheet, cash flow, and a summary of a performer. Day three is e-commerce. So you're going to deal with the social media platforms. You're going to deal with the fundamentals of marketing. And day four, we move into what I love, sales. How do you sell your product? How do you pitch your product? What's the processes to be able to succinctly tell someone what is the benefit of your product or service? Day five is people. So we're going to talk about hiring, putting together the HR process, but also how do you build and upscale your company? And then also social capital. How do you meet people? How do you pitch to those people? How do you build your network? Those are the 5 days.
That's fantastic. I would love to rewind a little bit and go to the sales, because you and I have had this conversation. I used to do sales, advertising and marketing sales in my days in publishing. And it's so hard. It's so hard. And they don't teach that in school. And when you told me that you had like a whole day dedicated to sales, which includes negotiation, right? Developing the proposal, the pitch, all of that, I'm like, "Oh my goodness." It's like that alone should be given in college. Like there should be a sales course in college, and I don't think I've ever seen a sales 101, but there should be. And it should be applied to all industries or all concentrations, really. Why did you decide to include this? And I know because it's your passion, but how important is sales, and being a good salesperson? And if you're not, then finding a good sales team, right, for business development.
Stan, it just amazes me how people are just afraid of selling. And it's so fundamental part of your business. I mean, think
Mhm.
about it. When you go to a Wall Street, a bank, a friend, or a family, they're going to ask you one question: how are your sales? How are you
Mhm.
doing with sales? Is your sales up or down? But I think people get intimidated by that interaction. It's a fear that I'm going to walk through that door and meet as a stranger and be able to effectively tell them why me.
Mhm.
And basically, sales is a relationship. Sam, Emmy,
Mhm.
and Joe. It's not Novartis and J and J. It boils down to Sammy and Joe. And
Yeah.
how can I benefit Sammy? How can I make Sammy do better? How can I invest in Sammy so her business grows? And
Mhm.
people sometimes getting caught up in me.
Mm.
I need to make my sale. I need to make a commission. I need to make my bonus. It's me, me, me. My product. My product is better than Sammy. No. Is my product a good fit for Sam? And you've
Mm-hmm.
got to be able to communicate that. It's not about the features, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the benefit. How
Yes,
can I
absolutely.
benefit you? So
Yeah. I think also,
that's my thing.
yeah, totally. I think also there's this fear of rejection. I mean, that too. I think that's a big part of this. Oh, they're gonna say no. It's like it's like this fear. And I remember because I used to do cold calling. I'm talking
Oh,
back in the day. And then now I see people doing it on LinkedIn, and I'm like, no, that's not the way, that's not the
yeah,
way to do it, right? I learned with time, right, that these impersonal kind of it really doesn't work it's not as effective, if you will, unless there's real like crazy sick value that it's like,
yeah,
okay, yeah, I'm glad you called me, right? And so but and it took a while for me in my case to develop a thick skin because I knew after a while, wait a second, I'm gonna get like 100 no's and then eventually I'm going to get 3 yeses, right? And then it starts flipping, and then because you start calibrating your messaging and you're like, oh, wait a second, that's what works, right?
yeah,
And so is that part of this experience, because we're talking about 8-hour days, 3 days a
yeah.
week, right? 2 weeks.
Sam, sales boils down to three things. It is your message, it's your target, and frequency. If you can nail all three of that, you'll be successful. That's the process. I always tell the story, and hopefully people aren't too sensitive. How does a lion hunt? A
How does a
lion
lot?
can see a herd of wildebeest, but it will focus on that one wildebeest. And if it takes 8 hours, it will sit there and wait. And then when the time comes, it pounces.
Mm,
That's it.
yeah.
I mean, it's not one call, it's not
Hmm.
two calls, it's 8 to 12 calls.
Hmm.
That's frequency. What are you saying? Are you talking about how good you look? Or are you really understanding their business? Like
Yeah.
Sammy, you run a nonprofit, you know,
Hmm.
cost culture.
Hmm.
What's important to you? How can I benefit you to grow your business? Right? That's the
Hmm.
method.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
hone in on that mess. Okay. But I have to decide, are you the right target? So many
Hmm.
times, salespeople, they just wander out. They get up in the morning and then they go for a ride. You know,
Yeah.
Sales is not a vacation. It's not getting in your car and going from customer to customer, right? It's a focus. I'm going to make 5 calls today, and it's on this target. Why? Because they meet the need, they've
Hmm.
got the money spent, and they've got the power to make the decision. That's
Yeah,
it.
that's it. Yeah, totally.
And that's
So,
what we talk about doing that day is
yeah.
making it simple and getting away from that fear. Because Sammy, you're right. That fear of rejection, it's not personal. It's not. You know,
Hmm.
I used to think of sales as acting. I was a character. I was Joe Simmons, salesperson. If they said no, this didn't bother me. It was somebody else, right?
Yeah.
And that's not how you like. You're right. You New Yorkers have that saying, "Have a tough skin," but that's what
Yeah.
it is. It is your job.
Yeah. And not take it personal. Yes. That's
Yeah,
great. So I'm excited. I'm very I'm so looking forward to gaining focus, right? And direction and really understand. And the beauty of it is that within the cohort, and correct me if I'm wrong, you have at all levels of the business cycle, right? You have startups, you have people that are already 10 years into it. You have, at from seed to scale, right?
yeah,
I know that one of the topics you touch or that at least we've discussed is that like this that succession plan, right? Like what do you do
Yeah,
also,
yeah,
when,
yeah.
in terms of
It really
life cycle of the business. Yes.
you're right. It really nice to have at the table, you know, all from zero to full businesses, people that are just starting, because they add to the conversation.
Hmm.
You brings the experience. So someone just starting, they look at your business and they'll see something that you might, I never ever thought about that,
Hmm.
because they come in with no baggage, they no history, they don't,
Hmm.
it's not their baby,
Yeah.
so they can say, you know what, Sammy, you might want to take a look at this and this. So it makes for an invigorating experience. But the
Yes.
key thing is you leave with the fundamentals. you
Hmm.
know you're going to understand, you know how do I look at my profit statement, how do I look at my balance sheet, what is one of my business plan, is it
Hmm.
solid, what's my target audience, what's my message, how do I scale up, where can I go for money, how do
Hmm.
I network, all
Hmm.
those components, you now have to go to the next level. And you have this group of people who you've gone through a 5-day experience with, that are your brothers and sisters, right? You
Yes.
share a
Yes.
language, joke, ups and down. Oh my God, I can't believe I've made 5 days of 80 hours, right?
Yeah. and it was crazy because we have in the urban Dirt team, we have our leadership meetings every Monday morning, and Shalonda canceled like 2 weeks worth. And so I called her up and I'm like, what happened? And she's like, remember, we're taking the cohort. I'm like, oh yeah, I totally, I have to block out a full day. I didn't realize, all of a sudden it suddenly hit me. Yes, I'm committed you know, to this
And, and,
experience. Hmm.
and Stan, maybe the other thing that I'm very, very proud of is the presenters. The presenters are college professors, they're business owners, sales coaches, entrepreneurs. So they've gone through the journey. They know
Yeah.
the pitfall. That you
Yeah.
have this experience that you can tap into, and they're there
Yeah.
to help you, to make you better. So
That's
it's a
awesome.
strong it's a strong network of presenters. I mean, we've
Yeah.
got somebody from Houston College, from Atlanta College. We've got someone from Florida CFO group. Trying to think. LinkedIn, one of the masters of LinkedIn. So, it's a strong network of presenters that really enriches the experience.
Yes. And what I like about it too is that it's a very like the sense I get, it's going to be almost like a mentorship program is what
Yeah,
I've gotten. And when you talk to entrepreneurs of color, that's what we're lacking. And entrepreneurs just in general. If you're starting and you don't have the backing, right, of, pops that can
yeah, yeah.
tell you, oh yeah, you graduated college with an MBA, here's 50 grand, take a sabbatical and figure out, if what you want to do. Anybody that starts off a business from scratch with just the bare minimum in terms of resources and funds or capital, um needs a mentor. And so I almost feel like this is going to create that space, right, or that the tone of the entire training for these 2 weeks is going to be very mentorship driven. And am I off on that, or is that
No,
something
no.
that Mhm.
You hit two things. You know, what I like about connecting with you, Sammy, is your experience with nonprofit. You've been a mentor to me. I can pick up the phone,
Mhm.
you answer the phone. I've got a question. Hey, Sammy, I don't understand this. Can you help? And then there's no judgment. That's the
Mm-hmm.
beauty of having a mentor is no judgment. So I can say, I don't know. Help me. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what entrepreneurs need. But they also need that Nadia touch of in your face, direct. There's no filter.
No filter at all.
I have to you have to tell the audience who Nadia is.
Yes,
But
we want to give a shout out to Nadia. She Nadia Carmino from One Alliance Consulting. I mean, again, someone that came into my life, and I think yours too. I don't know that
yeah.
you knew her
You
before.
no,
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, that's true. Yes.
yeah.
What am I talking about? I introduced you guys. She came into our lives, this past year, and I've learned so much from her on how to, what you just said before, how to be succinct, to the point, and it's okay to be direct. If you're coming from a place of caring and coming of a place of love and just wanting the best for people around you and for the community as a whole. I mean, she has a heart of not gold, diamonds, and it's been great to just listen. And I'm like, sometimes we're in these spaces and I'm like, did she just say that? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I love it. Right? I love it because it makes
But but
people
but
sound like,
Sammy,
yeah.
but Sammy, the second point is every month you come back together as a group with the other
Hmm.
groups. So
Yeah.
now you've got this large community. And
Yeah.
not only can you support, give guidance, but there could be business opportunity. And
Hmm.
let's face, for businesses to be successful, they need customers, right?
Yeah.
You've got to
Hmm.
build that customer base, and you helping each other, giving each other leads, it just flourishes and grows and grows. And it gets to the point like when you and I were having lunch, for your daughter to take over a healthy, striving business to take it to the next level. And that's
Yeah.
what it's about. That's
Yes.
progress.
Yes, it is. Yes. And that she sees that as a possibility about going to
Yes.
college and not, necessarily going into the workforce, but to taking over, the family business is something
Yeah.
that we've never had that in our
Right.
families, right? And so to see that
Well,
actually be a possibility is great.
Well, I was reading 1619 Project, and they talked about, the wealth gap. And
Hmm.
one of the things that Black and Brown communities missed out on was owning a house, having, you know, equity, and then you using that equity for the next generation. And whether that's a house, a business, now you build you build, you build, and
Hmm.
you change outcomes. Think about
Yeah.
for your daughters, what their outcomes will be in 28 years with
Hmm.
them taking over this business. And it's
Yeah.
the same for entrepreneurs. There's at least, I can remember at our graduation, the kids in the background. And again, they're like those lions. They're just listening to mom and dad talk about, wow, mom and dad did a business plan. They did a pitch. Oh, financing. JP Morgan Chase, TDD Bank. And they hear these conversations and it's comfortable to them. And if they have a question about taking over the business or starting the business, mom and dad can give them the answer. You're building generational success. Too many times we want to change outcomes, and it's too late. The horse and left barn is gone. But we
Hmm.
can change the trajectory of families for generations, for years, and that's what we have to do. We have
Yeah.
got to change the trajectory, and we've got the opportunity now. This is not our moment. This is a movement, and we've got to focus on that.
My goodness. I don't know. There's nothing else to say. You just dropped the mic with that. But I feel that if I say anything more, yeah, I'll ruin this moment right now. And yes, you're absolutely right. Thank you for saying that, Joseph. And I think that having you as a guest to kick off this new year and actually transmitting this message, right? That this is the moment to change
Yeah.
their trajectory, and it's a movement, where
Yes.
we come together to make this happen. It's just a powerful and beautiful thing, and I can't wait to take that deep dive January 24th, um with you and the rest of the cohort, the people, and to meet new people and really lean in on each other. Is there anything else you would like to, or when's the next cohort? Let's put that out there.
Oh,
When's the next cohort after
hold on.
I know you've got everything lined up and that you are, yeah, so when are you looking to kick off the
The
next
next,
cohort?
thank you, Sammy. The next CMET, it will be in March because we're celebrating our 1 year anniversary. Yes,
Oh,
1 year.
yes. Yes. Okay, good. So what we'll do
Yes,
is
it'll be March.
we'll make sure to share your announcement of the kickoff of the 1 year anniversary, right,
Yes,
cohort, so that way we can get a lot of great entrepreneurs participating, so we can make sure that they connect with you and your team of
yes.
experts, and we can help them scale and grow. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so blessed to get to know you, and I can't wait to roll up my sleeves with you, because we're gonna tackle this year, right, Joseph?
Sammy, wheels up, 8 o'clock, January 24th, right?
Yes, 8 o'clock in the morning. Yes,
That's
so
right.
I'll make sure
Be
I'll
ready.
make sure to be early. Yes, and I'll bring a lot of cafe con leche to make sure that I
Oh,
that I that I say okay. Okay, I'm sure it's gonna be
I'm
awesome.
jealous.
Okay, sounds great. Well, good talking to you, Joseph. Okay.
Thank you.
This concludes this episode of I Have Something to Say. We want to thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to tell your friends about us. We're on Spotify and iTunes as well. There's more to come next week. And remember, if you have something to say, it's time to speak up.